She built a life with a man she believed would stand by her through anything. They raised a son, shared 2 decades of dinners, holidays, ordinary Tuesdays. Then came the diagnosis. Her body, once dependable, began to falter, and the man who promised forever left without a word. He packed a bag, walked out, and vanished into a silence louder than any goodbye. Dana wasn't just sick, she was abandoned. And in the emptiness he left behind, a 12-year-old boy stepped forward. Eli didn't offer miracles. He offered toast, books, quiet courage, and somehow, in the rubble of her broken health and broken heart, he became her reason to try again. This isn't just a story about illness or heartbreak or even recovery. It's about what happens when strength shows up in unexpected places. This is a fictional story rooted in real emotions. If you've ever felt invisible in your hardest moments, if you've ever wondered whether love could come from someone too young to carry so much, stay with us, because what happens next doesn't just shift one life, it might reshape how we define strength forever. Her name was Dana, 39, school librarian, mother of one. She loved poetry, sourdough, and rainy mornings. She made paper swans for Eli's lunchbox notes. She baked birthday cakes from scratch, even if they leaned sideways. She believed in rituals over routines, in small joys over big wins. Life wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Her marriage had grown quiet over the years, more logistics than laughter, more schedules than soul, but she believed in showing up, in working through the hard, in loyalty. When the fatigue started, she brushed it off. Busy week, flu, maybe. When her legs started trembling on the stairs, she joked about getting old. But when she collapsed in the hallway holding a tray of laundry and couldn't get back up, she knew something was wrong. Doctors ran tests, scans, needles, questions, diagnosis, multiple sclerosis, progressive. She sat in the passenger seat as her husband drove them home in silence. He didn't say a word, not that night, not the next morning, and by the weekend, his side of the closet was empty. She didn't scream, she didn't chase him. She called her sister to pick up Eli for the weekend and cried until she couldn't see. She mourned the life she thought she still had time to live, the hikes they never took, the novels she hadn't written, the mother she worried she couldn't be anymore. What she didn't know was that Eli would become the reason she saw again, that sometimes when the world walks out, someone you least expect might step in. Eli came home Sunday night with the paper crown from his cousin's birthday. He was quiet, not sulking, not sad, just watching. He had seen enough to know something wasn't right. But he didn't ask questions. He wandered through the house like he was mapping a storm. The darkened kitchen, the unopened mail, the heavy silence. And when he found his mother in the bedroom, still in yesterday's clothes, the dinner tray untouched, he didn't flinch. He didn't ask where Dad went. He didn't cry. He just climbed into bed beside her, pulled the covers up around both of them, and said softly, "Do you want me to read to you?" Dana didn't answer right away. She blinked slowly, as if surfacing from deep underwater, then nodded, barely. Eli reached into his backpack, pulled out the first Harry Potter book, the one she used to read him at bedtime. He cleared his throat and began. His voice wasn't dramatic or confident. It cracked, hesitated, but it carried weight, not just words. That night, for the first time in days, Dana slept. The next morning, Eli made toast, burnt it, tried again. He laid out her socks, he opened the windows, he reminded her to take her meds. No lectures, no pity, just presence. He didn't do it all perfectly, but he showed up every day, and in his quiet 12-year-old way, he started to pull her back into life. What began as a single bedtime chapter would soon become a daily ritual of recovery. And soon, Eli would do something else, something small but strong, and it would change everything. Eli became more than a helper. He became her rhythm. He set alarms on her phone for medication. He learned to cook simple meals, grilled cheese, scrambled eggs, oatmeal with berries. He created a binder titled Mom Stuff with tabs for symptoms, appointments, and questions to ask her doctors. Some mornings, she still couldn't get out of bed, but he'd crawl in beside her with flashcards or comics. He'd read aloud until the heaviness eased just enough. When her hands trembled too much to hold a pen, he became her scribe, writing emails she dictated, jotting down poetry lines she whispered. He began riding the bus alone so she could rest, doing his own laundry, packing both their lunches. Friends at school asked where his dad went. Eli just shrugged, but when one kid mocked the smell of his burnt toast sandwiches, he looked them straight in the eye and said, "That toast saved my mom." One day he came home with a surprise, a tiny indoor herb garden kit. "Because you said you missed the smell of rosemary," he told her. She cried over basil, laughed over thyme. Their kitchen windowsill became a shrine to green things growing again, just like her. But as her body slowly strengthened, so did the world's expectations. And not everyone understood what kind of strength Eli had been carrying. That pressure was coming, and when it did, it would test them both. Dana's healing wasn't a straight line. There were relapses, days when the pain returned with a vengeance, weeks when her legs felt like sandbags, fingers that refused to cooperate, and always the crushing fatigue that seemed to whisper, "You'll never be who you were." One morning she collapsed in the shower. Eli heard the thud, ran in, helped her up with all the strength his frame could offer. They sat on the floor together, wet and shivering. She whispered, "I'm sorry. This isn't your job." He looked her in the eye and said, "It's not a job. It's you." That night, Dana wrote in her journal for the first time in months, not because she felt better, but because she needed to remember the light that flickered inside her, even on the darkest days. Eli had his own struggles too, the pressure of adult responsibility on 12-year-old shoulders, missed homework, forgotten field trips, fewer friends. One teacher called home, concerned. But instead of scolding, Dana requested a meeting. She sat beside Eli and advocated not just for his academics, but for his humanity. "This is a kid who's learning empathy most adults don't have," she said. "He may turn in his math late, but he's teaching me how to live." The teacher didn't interrupt, just nodded slowly and extended the deadlines. They made space for rest, for play, for small healing joys. They watched movies under a blanket fort, tried watercolor painting on the porch, started a 3 good things journal every night before bed. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were slowly rebuilding. But neither of them knew that one final test was waiting. An opportunity that would ask Eli to let go just a little and ask Dana to step forward completely on her own. And it was coming faster than either of them expected. It came in the form of a field trip, not Eli's, Dana's. Her physical therapist had recommended a community art class, something to engage her hands, her mind, her confidence. It sounded simple, but the idea of leaving the house alone, of walking into a room full of strangers, sent her spiraling. "I'm not ready," she told Eli. He didn't argue, he just set out her sketchbook the night before, and in the morning he handed her a note. It said, "You taught me how to keep going when everything feels broken. You're stronger than you remember. I'll be here when you get back." Dana stood in the doorway, keys trembling in her hand, but something in her shifted. She took one step, then another. Then the world opened. That afternoon, she sat in a folding chair beneath a window that spilled sunlight across a table of paints. She dipped a brush into yellow, bright, defiant, alive, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was returning. But what Dana didn't realize was that Eli was watching that transformation too, and it was changing something in him. He was learning that real strength isn't in holding someone up forever. It's in knowing when to let them stand. Some stories stay with you, not because they're perfect, but because they're true in all the ways that matter. Dana didn't need rescuing. She needed space to fall apart, and someone who didn't flinch when she did. Eli wasn't a hero in the traditional sense. He was a kid with burnt toast and shaky hands and unshakable love. Together, they didn't conquer illness, they navigated it, they didn't fix everything, they faced it, and in the process, they redefined what strength could look like. If you've ever had to rebuild after being broken, if you've ever watched someone walk out and wondered if anyone would step in, if you've ever questioned whether your quiet efforts mattered, this story is your reminder. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. And love, especially the kind that shows up when it's hardest, is its own kind of medicine. Share this story with someone who's held you up, even when they were hurting too. Subscribe to Able in every way for more stories about unexpected strength, quiet courage, and the people who carry light into dark places. Because sometimes the strongest person in the room isn't the one who stands tallest. It's the one who kneels beside you, holds your hand, and simply says, "I'm here."